We will send.
This meeting is being recorded.
We will send this recording out to everybody when we're done. We will have it on our YouTube channel. There is a Detroit 2030 District YouTube channel that you can see all of our different presentations and meetings, not just our sponsorship series, but also our multifamily, house of worship, and member meetings. So that's a good way to do it. Please let us know that you're here by putting your name and organization in the chat box. And Kendall Kuhneman, who's going to wave, our program manager, is going to look for your questions, and she will kind of filter those out and ask them in order as they come in after each speaker today. So let's see. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I have like a 2-minute update on Detroit 2030 District, but welcome to our Lunch and Learn. We have 3 great speakers today, Todd, Bob, and Jason, as you can see right here. We will go in a minute a little bit into what they're going to talk about. And then at the very end, we're going to let everyone open up their their camera and raise their hand and chit chat and get to say hello to everybody when we're done. But first, I just wanted to give a little update on where we're at. We're 2030. If you haven't been on our website lately or at any of our meetings, we are now happily up to over 51 million square feet. Gosh, almost 400 buildings now. More than 40 stakeholders because we have a couple new ones and another new community stakeholder. So we're rocking and rolling. Detroit is on the move to becoming a sustainable city, and we're super excited to be leading the way. In case you don't know, we have 24 districts across North America. Michigan has 3, Grand Rapids, Ann Arbor, and Detroit. And if you aren't familiar with what 2030 districts do, this is what we're aiming to do. Reduce energy and water consumption in our member buildings and transportation emissions to and from those buildings. Trying to do 50% from the baseline by 2030. That's the year, but obviously we're going to be working way past that. It's not that far away anymore. We have 3 member types, which many of you are here today. We have property owners and managers. That's who this program is for. It's free for them to belong. We are a nonprofit, and everything that we do is based around helping them. We have professional stakeholders, and that's businesses that belong. Just like today, these 3 businesses today belong, and they get a chance to meet with our members and present. And then we also have community stakeholders. We team up with a lot of them, including like Michigan Interfaith Power and Light. We have a couple other EcoWorks that we do a lot of work with. So we have a lot of community stakeholders that we team up with. In case you don't know, we have 3 best practice groups, and you can see right here, it's venue museums, houses of worship, and multifamily. And these groups get together about every other month to work on challenges for their building type. Kendall, you want to talk a little bit about the awards breakfast we just had?
Sure. Some of you may remember that the Detroit 2030 District, in partnership with the City of Detroit, had launched the Detroit Energy Challenge in 2020. And due to the pandemic, it was postponed until this year. So we relaunched the Energy Challenge and had an awards breakfast in June and awarded the top 5 biggest losers who reduced their energy consumption the most in Detroit. And this was in partnership with the City of Detroit and Michigan Battle of the Buildings, and we will be doing this challenge annually. So look for more updates in the next couple of months.
Great. Just wanted to let you know about our fall meeting here. We are the host of the 2030 Districts Network International Summit. I'm proud to be hosting it in Detroit. Every year it's at a different city. This is our 3rd year trying to do it in person. My 3rd year planning it, and we are doing it this year. Come out and be happy about being out, or stay home. No other in between anymore. So that's our choice. We're super excited to be having this welcome reception. We hope everybody can attend. Tickets will be ready next month. So follow our newsletter and get your tickets to come. We're excited with our keynote speaker and all of our sponsors. If you're not involved in a district, this is the 3 ways you can participate. By adding a building into a program, sponsor an event, become a business, which is a professional stakeholder that supports us, or just volunteer. And this is how to follow us. These are the social media. We're actually on Instagram too. Our website always has our events on there. You can get your tickets there and learn what's going on. And our newsletters are very comprehensive of everything that we do. So that is all I have to say today for an update on Detroit 2030 District. So let's get back to our speakers. Once again, if you just joined us, welcome. Put your name and organization in the chat. And we have 3 great speakers today, and Kendall's going to funnel your questions. So plop in what your questions are while the speakers are speaking, and we're going to run through the questions after each one of them individually. And then, of course, at the end, we can always bring up more questions and have more open conversation. So today, I would like to introduce Todd Williams with Lean and Green Michigan, and Jason Beal with Right Energy Partners, and Robert Matler with Green Portfolio Solutions. So each one of them is going to present, and they kind of all mesh together. But Todd is going to talk a little bit of like an introduction to PACE and what's going on, some updates that are new with PACE financing. And then we're going to hear from Bob, who is going to go through some case studies and people who have used PACE financing, including Detroit Unity, which Jason Beal at Right Energy Partners worked on. And so we're going to flow into what he did at that building and learn a little bit more about what Right Energy Partners does. So with that, Todd, I will let you share your screen. I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to let you share. We will get started. And by the way, we are recording. So let me stop sharing here. Oh, or am I done sharing already? Oh, there we go. Stop sharing. Okay.
Thank you, Connie. I really
You're
appreciate it.
welcome.
And
Yeah.
hopefully this works for me. So
Let's hope, right? There we go. Looks good.
excellent. Can everybody see the screen? Excellent. I'm never sure because I have 2 screens if it's going to show the presentation screen or the side one with all the extra slides. So I'm always a bit nervous with that when I get started. But Connie, thank you for having me today. I'm always happy to come and talk about PACE and give a little bit of intro to PACE and a bit of background on it. See if I can't get it to move. There we go. It has been a great year for Michigan PACE. While we haven't closed as many deals as we did last year, we've accomplished quite a lot of kind of back of house updates. And so it's one of the first that we had to face was the fact that 2 of our great team members had moved on at the beginning of the year for wonderful opportunities. And so we're very excited to have brought on John Wiley as our new associate counsel and Megan Ross as our communications and business associate. So we will definitely, if you've not run into them at events, you will see them out and about very soon. But this is our team at Lean and Green Michigan, just the 4 of us. Always here to answer any PACE questions anybody has, and always happy to help. Just a way of introduction to PACE or Property Assessed Clean Energy, a little bit of background on Lean and Green Michigan, and then we'll kick it over to Bob and to Jason for the more exciting actual application of PACE. But Property Assessed Clean Energy came to Michigan in 2010 with the passage of the enabling statute. Lean and Green Michigan actually was formed in 2012, and so we're into our 10th year already. And over that time, we've grown. We now serve 51 communities in counties, cities, and townships across Michigan. We cover about 74% of Michiganders at this point, and we think a large portion of the actual commercial property. We're very happy. We've actually done project or financed projects in 22 of our jurisdictions, maybe 23. I haven't updated that number in a while, and I'd have to double check. But it's continuing to grow where it is enabled across Michigan, and has continued to grow and where it is actually being utilized in Michigan. And we cannot be happier with both of those. So a little bit about what PACE does. I think we're all here very familiar with the problem that energy efficiency, renewable energy upgrades to commercial property can be expensive. It's not always easy to finance for traditional financing tools. It's a large upfront cost, some with a long payback, particularly windows. LED lighting has a very short payback, but if you're really trying to improve the overall nature of your building, it can be a little challenging to get the financing for the project up front. PACE is a fairly elegant solution. It's not always the perfect solution, but is an elegant solution for that, in that it allows for extremely long-term, 20 to 25-year fixed rate financing for energy efficiency, renewable energy projects, and we'll get into what qualifies. The benefits of the local government, they're involved because at the end of the day, PACE stands for Property Assessed Clean Energy. The security interest that entices the large piles of money and the PACE lenders into our market and making investments here in Michigan is that they're offered a security interest in the form of a tax assessment placed against the commercial building. Nobody's ever going to be assessed against their will. Property owner is very knowledgeable as to what the project is, the money they're borrowing, and how the security interest is being placed. For a local government, honestly, it is a great and free economic development tool. It's one more tool in the toolbox. For the PACE lenders, it's a security interest that is highly secure and really very attractive to them. It is a tax assessment and is treated like any other tax assessment. And so it is fixed to the property, not necessarily recourse to the property owner, to the business, but is definitely fixed to the property, and they will get paid over time. Part of the problem that you're trying to address is the large upfront cost of some of these projects. With PACE, you are able to finance 100% of the project cost, including the cost of borrowing, the cost, any fees that the PACE program may have. You can roll all of that in to the property or to the loan. The loan is paid back over time, and the savings continue to accrue, year after year. And so, where you may have a property owner who cannot find it in their CIP budget right now to make an improvement, there's not a reason to wait. You can finance 100% of the project up front. In Michigan, we do have a bit of added protection in that, for projects above $250,000, the contractor needs to be able to guarantee and design a project that is going to save you money. And so this should be cash flow positive to the property owner from day one and all the way through the term. So while it may look a little daunting to get into the process, Meeting Green Michigan's here to help you through the process and help with contractors and lenders and everybody else to work through. And I'm very proud that we will constantly tell a property owner when they come in, if they're thinking about a project, if it's not a good fit, if it's not going to work out, we're going to tell you that very early and try to help you find something that will. And I never mind if a contractor gets brought on board and finds a better option. We want to see the improvements get done to our buildings. We're not here just to sell you PACE. So what can qualify? Michigan is a little limited compared to other states in that we only do commercial PACE, C-PACE. You will hear R PACE thrown around once in a while, which stands for residential. Currently under the Michigan PACE statute, that is not allowed. So we qualified property types, qualified project types in commercial, industrial. We definitely have seen a lot in the hospitality area, particularly in the last 2 years, and a booming area of senior living coming in. But we love multifamily, where it's 4 units and above would qualify as commercial. Agricultural, nonprofits, including houses of worship, private schools, cooperatives. We don't care if you're for-profit or nonprofit. You can borrow the loan as long as the commercial property underlying it would qualify. So, what you can finance, assuming you have the appropriate type of building: energy efficiency, water efficiency, and renewables. Renewables are kind of the fairly easy. Think of any solar energy, solar roofs, wind energy, geothermal, CHP. Energy efficiency sometimes gets a little bit broader field. People will think of the lighting and HVAC and windows, but they may not think of some of the other ones, insulation, roofing, caulking, sealing the building. We've had a couple of interesting projects where, they put in a building control system that would help control the building occupancy, but would also help control where the elevators were going and when they were going. And so if it will save money, save utility money, it may be financeable by PACE in Michigan. And we're always happy to address those questions as they come in. I would note water efficiency. We love anything that will reduce the use of water. More importantly, in Detroit, because the stormwater utility charge is a utility charge, we are able to help finance projects that will address that. And so we did finance a green roof in Michigan, or in Detroit, Michigan, because it helped to address the stormwater runoff charge, in addition to just increasing their insulation and improving the overall efficiency of the building. So don't feel like you don't have to be creative. If you can come up with it, and feel free to come and talk with us. We'll work through it to see if the technology works. I did want to carve out and shamelessly plug the fact we just did a webinar on EV charging about a week ago that is up on our website and is available to watch. Michigan's PACE statute specifically has a carve out that allows for PACE to finance EV charging stations. We love having these added in. Particularly, we've seen great success. One of our hospitality projects last year added EV charging stations to differentiate themselves from the rest of the market, and it's led to an increase in their bookings. So we highly encourage you, if you're doing a project, think about EV charging. It's a great addition, and it's very important as we build out the infrastructure here in Michigan. So PACE versus PACE Express, I've only mentioned this in passing. If you have a project, I talked about the savings to investment ratio, it kicks in at $250,000. And so we think of that as traditional PACE. We think of projects below $250,000 as PACE Express. We've tried to make the process easier. There's no savings guarantee requirement. There's no savings to investment ratio requirement. And so we've tried to make this easier and accessible for property owners with smaller projects. So feel free to reach out. They are less requirements, less intensive to get through. And I've got a soft spot in my heart for all the commercial building stock that we have, that's right in that sweet spot of being built in the 80s and 90s. And nobody's touched a furnace or lighting yet, but it's a smaller office building. It's amazing how many, probably $150,000 projects may be lurking around out there. So this slide may look a little overcomplicated. I do like to explain a little bit about what Leading Green Michigan does. We actually work on behalf of the local government to coordinate their program and to work with all of the other parties. That any energy efficiency project, any renewable energy project does involve multiple parties. And so we're here to help through the process with the property owner, the contractor, and the lender. And it's, just understand it is a massive circular process very often. I dream of a utopian project that starts at square one, works all the way through. But, typically what happens is the property owner is a bit of a project, the contractor is a bit of it done. We've got the lender and the local government involved, and at the end of the day, we've coordinated and drawn everything together. So we're really here to help with the process and help all the parties with the process. So there is pending legislation. This is the other update that we're working on. We're dreaming of this passing. House Bills 5011, 5012, 5761 would amend the PACE statute, commercial PACE statute here in Michigan. We think it would make PACE a little bit more accessible. It would make the savings to investment ratio requirement waivable by property owner for retrofits. And, it definitely or clearly defines new construction PACE and excludes them from the SIR. And so while we are a fan of the SIR, we've had a lot of pushback in the market from property owners who don't want the guarantee and are not worried about it. So I like leaving it in and making it waivable where I can with the property owners if they want the protection to have it available. There are a few other changes in these bills. They would allow and expand PACE to finance environmental hazards, helping to address things like PFAS and lead and water, and some resiliency. But overall, we like the three bills, and we're hoping they'll pass yet this fall. So keep your eyes out. If they do, we will definitely be putting out a lot of updates. And just my favorite slide to brag with, the numbers on the right-hand side are a little out of date, but we'll get those updated. But we have now closed 60 projects since 2015. And as of yesterday, we closed a second loan on a project. So I didn't get to tick that first number up, but we are up to 196 million of investment in energy efficiency and renewable energy here in Michigan, from private companies, to private property owners. And so we're very proud of it. Normally I'd brag through a bunch of case studies, but thankfully I'm joined today by contractors who work in the PACE market. And I'm going to just kick things over to them. But look forward to talking with anybody and answering any questions that you may have about PACE and the PACE process.
Thanks, Todd. We did have one question, and then we can open it up if there's any others. And hold on, let me turn my camera on. There we go. So the one question was, do new appliances and multifamily housing qualify under the PACE program?
I won't give a blanket endorsement to it for every project. We have qualified some energy efficient appliances on some projects, a couple of hospitality projects, and I believe one multifamily. But coffee makers probably never. Refrigerators, stoves, things that are clearly a little bit more fixture to the property, and depending on the property type. So energy or hospitality and multifamily, we may qualify it. But I would encourage you to reach out if you have a specific project. We're happy to take a look at it.
Thank you. And that was the only question in the chat. We can move on, and if anyone has additional questions for Todd, we will have time at the end for questions for any of the speakers. So we're going to move on to Bob Matler.
Okay, trying to share my screen here. Let's see. Files. Okay, I'm not really seeing it. Kendall or Connie, would you be able to load those in?
I can do that. Just give me a minute, but you can keep trying to. Just a second.
Sure. So while I'm doing this, let me introduce myself, Bob Matler. I'm with Green Portfolio Solutions. We have a company that assists building owners and developers with inputting PACE financing into new projects, renovations, upgrades, and even putting in renewables. And some of the slides that I had was gonna go over some of the important case studies we've had here, and I'm still working on that. So hold on, just bear with me for a second. Okay, there we go. Thank you very much, Connie. Okay, we can go to the second slide. This is the intro slide. Todd has gone over the qualified infrastructure that's allowed. I just wanted to make mention of the fact that with PACE financing, it doesn't have to be the highest technology or the most expensive technology. It just has to be above building code, because the whole idea of PACE financing is to get our buildings and other infrastructure upgraded to a higher level for energy and water savings. And just wanted to make mention of that. And I also wanted to indicate that one of the things that I've run into several times is obsolete infrastructure, especially elevators. That's a very expensive ticket item in an office building or a multifamily building to upgrade and replace. And we've actually had a couple of occasions where we've replaced that infrastructure too. So Connie, I'd like to go to the next slide, please. Thank you. One of the things that Todd did touch on, I just kind of wanted to reiterate and go into it a little bit deeper, is PACE does have some complexity to it. Most projects have at least 3 or 4 different stakeholders. You're always going to have the property owner interested in doing a PACE finance project. You're going to have the capital provider that brings the financing, brings the dollars to the table to do those upgrades. And then you're going to have the local jurisdiction to work with that has passed the PACE financing ordinance, and they're the ones that are going to be signing and helping with the paperwork and get everything established, especially the legal parts of PACE. And those are the 3 certain stakeholders in every PACE deal. Sometimes we get involved with the general contractors and even down to the contractor level if we need to be interfacing with them. So there are a lot of players in the PACE project, which does have some complexity to it, and just wanted everyone to be aware of kind of those people involved in most PACE projects. Next slide, please. Yeah, Todd also went over this. Some of the major benefits, if you go out and try and get a commercial loan for upgrading your building with infrastructure, you're usually going to get financing that's 7 years, 10 years. And one of the great benefits of PACE is you can take those payments up to 25 years, which makes it much smaller to pay back on an annual basis. And we're hoping in many cases that the energy and or water savings are going to be incrementally higher than the cost of the repayment. So that's a very important feature of PACE that traditional financing usually doesn't have. I also might want to add that other than new construction, during the construction phase, most PACE projects are non-recourse, meaning the owner does not have to guarantee repayment of the PACE financing. So their house and their other assets are not at risk. With PACE financing, we're looking at the property to be the repayment of the loan. And then we already went over most of the infrastructure systems that are required. But PACE is very flexible. It can be provided as part of the capital stack up front. PACE can be a part of the infrastructure replacement and repairs. And we can even refinance with PACE. And those are the types of projects that we've been involved with, we're going to go into. So let's go to the next slide. Todd already went over PACE Express versus standard PACE. We have done some PACE Express projects. I feel that that's a very much needed emphasis because we have a lot of older building stock, and some of these buildings are, 5,000, 10,000 square feet. And Michigan is very lucky to have a PACE Express opportunity for these building owners. We just want more to take advantage of them. Okay, the next slide. So we can get into the case studies. This is the first case study we did that we have. This is the Henry. It's completed new up-ground construction of multifamily, actually living workspaces, very new concept for Ann Arbor, and really cool project. We were able to take PACE dollars and finance LED lighting, but also PV solar and Energy Star windows, and a very high-tech building in Ann Arbor. The financing was sorely needed to get this project to completion. So that's a project in Ann Arbor, new construction. And that was also the first Washtenaw County PACE project. Next project, or next slide. This is a project that is near both to Todd's heart and mine. This is east side of Detroit. A building had been vacant just for years and years. And we had a new entrepreneur that came in and had a vision for upgrading the building, one apartment above, and then common area space and a small grocer on the first floor. And this building needed a lot of upgrading because, again, it had sat vacant for years and years. And the Sheen Street grocers used PACE basically as a refinancing tool. They couldn't quite get to the finish line and needed additional financing. So PACE was used to repay the owner for building envelope, HVAC, hot water, lighting system, refrigeration, and there's even, I believe, a solar panels that are going to be designed for this building. So it was repayment of the entrepreneur for past costs that they had incurred, and then also to get the final infrastructure in to complete the building. And this was a small project. This was only $115,000 of PACE financing. So PACE can really
Bob,
have.
not
Sorry?
to throw you off your role, but that is actually the smallest PACE project in Michigan.
Oh, that I did not know. Okay, well,
Yeah.
this won an award just because it was basically helping solve a food desert on the east side of Detroit, and it shows that it doesn't have to be the newest, highest, glossiest use or the newest, coolest building to use this great financing opportunity. So yeah, thanks, Todd. I appreciate that. And we're very proud of this and would like to duplicate it many more times over across the city and across Michigan, quite frankly. Next slide. This is a project that we worked on that was really cool and shows the flexibility of PACE. So another entrepreneur had purchased this industrial building in Livonia. It needed a lot of work, and they had already gone through the entire upgrading of that building. And then they contacted a solar company and kind of got the solar bug. And then they wanted additional financing after they had already completed the building. They wanted additional financing for the PV solar, and PACE was able to finance 100% of that PV solar roof after they'd already completed the building and moved in. And I really need to circle back with the owner, but I know that they're very happy with the performance of the PV solar array on top of this flat roof, because they've really significantly reduced their energy usage and costs, quite frankly, of the energy that they're not using. So very interesting use of PACE after complete renovation of an older industrial building, and then adding on new technology to help the building save energy, and the owner put green dollars back in his pocket. So another very cool project in Livonia. And I think we have one last slide here for another project. This is actually Green Portfolio Solutions' first project that we completed, and we're also very proud of this because it's a beautiful church in Detroit. Like many churches, sometimes it's difficult to get to some of the items for infrastructure upgrades, or so many other needs of capital for a nonprofit. And we were able to work with this nonprofit church, Detroit Unity Temple, and bring in PACE financing for lighting improvements, insulation. We did some building envelope repair and roof repair, and really kind of breathed new life into this building, and made the church members very happy. I was told afterwards that the LED lighting allowed them to see their songbooks and their prayer books again, because the lighting had been, let's just say it wasn't upgraded for a while. And this is, again, a gorgeous building in Detroit Palmer Park. We need to save more of these buildings because this is truly the character of Detroit and the fabric of our community. These wonderful churches that do so much good and really are some of the greatest assets we have in our community. So would love to do more nonprofit work, especially with churches and any other nonprofit organization that might be short on cash but wants to upgrade their facility that might have some obsolescent items in it. So I have one last slide with my contact information. I've always also put that into the chat if anybody wants it there. And I just want to hand it over to Jason Beal. Great company to work with, understands PACE, which is important for a GC to understand the functioning of this financing and how to make sure that it's as seamless as possible for the owner. And Connie, thank you so much for the help. Sorry for the tech difficulties up front. But super appreciate the opportunity to present and look forward to any comments anybody might have. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Yeah, and before we move over to Jason's presentation, there was a question from Molly. What are the requirements for PACE? So the size of the building, energy consumption, own versus lease, etc.
Well, let me take the own versus lease first, because that was the last one. A tenant can have an owner take out a PACE finance project, but it is the owner that is responsible for repayment, for actually taking out the project and then repaying the fee. On some leases, especially a triple net lease, they are able to pass that cost on to the tenants. So the tenants, if it's a multi-functional building, multi-tenant building, they would pay their pro rata share of the repayment of the PACE finance project. Actually, there are opportunities for tenants to kind of nudge the owner, because in many cases it's the tenant that's paying the utilities, and it would be the tenant that would actually be the entity that would be saving money if they're paying the bill. As far as size of a building, we really have size of PACE project. I would say $125,000, $150,000 would probably be about the smallest PACE project. And what was the last question? There is no building size.
Energy consumption.
There really is no energy consumption requirement either. We just want to make sure that if we do a PACE project, we have some tangible savings of water, energy, or placing renewables that do reduce the burden of that utility bill to the owner.
All right. Thank you, Bob. I don't see any other questions. You did mention something about energy code in the beginning of your presentation, and I have a question about that maybe I can ask at the end with all three speakers. All right. Well, then with that, we'll move on to Jason's presentation. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Can everybody see my screen? All right, so again, I'm Jason Beal. I'm one of the owners of Right Energy Partners. And so Todd and Bob did a great job of kind of explaining the kind of initial parts of PACE and, you know, some of the complexities that go into it. Some of the other side of it is actually getting the work done. And so we are a GC. So with your energy efficiency partner, and I'll kind of explain a little bit more about that in a little bit here, but I'm first going to kind of lead off or kind of go into where Bob left off regarding Detroit Unity Temple. So he is right. It's a beautiful limestone building in Detroit that we worked on that project. And so kind of some quick stats on it, you know, on that project, you know, being, again, a PACE Express, finance $250,000, project term was 20 years. The savings over that 20 years is going to be over $500,000. And so we did the lighting improvements, the building envelope, the insulation, the roof repair. So where our company is of value is the other side of PACE is that once you get, you know, looking at various different measures and saying, hey, we want to do lighting, or hey, we want to do HVAC, or hey, we want to do building envelope, there also needs to be a centralized contractor that kind of agrees to take on that project and you know, guarantee the savings. That can sometimes be, you know, complex when you get over 250,000, because now, you know, let's say your electrical team or electrician does not necessarily want to guarantee the HVAC work, or the HVAC doesn't want to guarantee the roofing. So we have built up a very strong network of contractors that we work with to be able to provide all of those various different items, along with, you know, us doing the energy calculation. So again, make sure that we can guarantee the savings. So again, we become your energy partner. So with regards to Detroit Unity, you know, Bob mentioned that, you know, the main sanctuary area, as you can kind of see here in this photo here, a lot of the ceiling lighting was not working. It was very spotty. We got it to where we were able to kind of light up the entire space. And, you know, again, it was just a dramatic, and the video, really the photos don't even do it justice as to the amount of lighting that main sanctuary now has. Roof repair, there was a lot of rust, and the metal coping on the edges was, you know, leaking. And so it was actually pushing out the limestone slabs on the side of the building. So we were able to silver coat, and the metal copings to make sure that there was no any leakage going down the side. And here you can kind of see there's like this open area in their roof that basically we were able to turn around and we put in, and actually didn't include the photo, but we put in about 22 inches worth of insulation in their ceiling, because above this main sanctuary is an open attic and a lot of air was leaking. And when you went in that open airspace, it was, again, you could tell that it was either super hot or super cold. And so with that insulation now helps a lot of the energy being lost through that kind of open attic space that was then leaking out through the ceiling. So we went into, we sealed that as well. So, with this, we were able to kind of take their monthly spend of $2,500 and take it down to $879. Now, bulk of that was due to the lighting. But again, with the lighting, and that's why, again, us as a GC are of value, because we're able to use the lighting and the savings for that to combine other projects that maybe don't have as much savings on a monthly basis or an annual basis, but then roll them in so that the whole project itself still is cash flowing. So it's our duty to be able to put together the project to make sure that it works, both in the short term and long term. And so annually, they're saving, almost over 20 grand in energy costs. And that's, again, floating straight to the bottom line. And so Eugene Franklin, the president of the board, had stated that, if it wasn't really for PACE financing, they weren't going to be able to move forward with that project. And so, it was a great project for us, and we were grateful to be able to work with them because they're just a tremendous organization. And so, again, our duty really is to help organizations by creating cash flow for these projects. So a lot of, building owners look at their building as basically, a structure. They go in, they operate their business. And their business is the one that most of the focus is on. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's how they, make their day-to-day. So for us, it's utilizing their facility, their business, and saying, how do we look at the actual infrastructure, the actual facility, and turn that into an asset? Whereas now it's no longer looked at as just a liability of cost. It can now be an asset for them in reducing cost of usage. So we look at also, because we're a contractor with a trade ally with DTE and consumers, that we maximize the rebates on that side for the clients. So we're very well versed in those programs for consumers and DTE. We had to maximize and fill out the rebate applications for the client so that they can have the highest ROI for the project. Because again, those are dollars that are contributed by DTE and consumers towards this project to be able to, make it more energy efficient. That's just, again, free money to help the ROI. Also, again, with creating those cash flow energy, projects. Also, we work with connecting the project to the proper financing. So I know that we're mentioning PACE, but there are other financing, either for sometimes smaller projects or sometimes it's a time constraint. So, some of the sometimes some of the challenges with PACE are that, again, it requires an appraisal, requires an environmental. So sometimes that can elongate the process. And so sometimes with a project, it has to get started immediately. Either, you're a landlord and you have tenants that you're looking to sign up and you need to get the building, up to code or up to more efficient immediately. And so time constraints may provide a challenge. So I'll get into kind of, there's some other ways that we can work with you on that in just a second. So to kind of backtrack, we as Right Energy started by myself and my two partners. They're brothers, and actually we're a family organization. So this gentleman here sitting down is actually my uncle. He married my aunt. So we're, again, a family organization. We started out of a garage in 2015, and since 2015, we've done over 500 projects. In fact, I think we're almost close to our 600th project. So we've done a ton of projects, small and large, and we've done it because, again, we by nature are not electricians. We're not, HVAC mechanical. We are business owners, and so we structure projects that make sense for business owners. So we leave the technical side to our technical team and the experts there, but we structure projects and we make sure that those projects now are connected to financing that make the projects a reality. So some of the projects we've been part of that we've gotten some awards from DTE, Guernsey Dairy Farms, McClure's Pickles. In 2019, we were voted the Contractor of the Year by MECA, and then in 2020, the Large Project of the Year award for MECA. I'm actually now a board member of MECA. We're also a Michigan Save certified contractor and a PACE certified contractor. So these are just some of the clients that we've been able to serve, again, in the amongst the almost 600. So some very well-known names, and a lot of times what will happen is like for instance with the Boys and Girls Club, we started with one, and then from there the word spread about what we were able to do over there, and we ended up doing 5 more. We handled all the Nino Savaggio locations, all the Village Ford locations, some Les Stanford. So a lot of again, very well-known company names. These are some other projects that we've done that were not financed with PACE dollars, but were PACE type projects because there were multiple measures. So for NTN, we started out with the lighting, but then again, they established after the project of lighting that they had a need regarding air leakage. So we went and we did the study of the building and saw that they needed both interior and exterior, the interior for the air leakage, but they also had some water intrusion that we were able to settle out with the exterior building envelope. So again, been able to save them over $6,000 a month that goes straight to the bottom line. Adat Shalom, we work with the group to be able to do the chillers, the boilers, the lighting, and the interior building envelope. Again, reducing their monthly spend by half. So in our wheelhouse of expertise, we're able to, through our technical team and subcontractor network, be able to handle with lighting and controls, building envelope, both interior and exterior. And again, interior is going to be more for the water or for the air leakage, and that's going to where a lot of the savings is. But a lot of buildings also have water intrusion, and that's where the exterior comes in. HVAC and HVAC controls, solar, roofing and insulation, vehicle charging stations, motors and drives, and boilers and chillers. So again, a lot of times, with a project, you may have several different contractors most times you're gonna have several different contractors that have to do that various different work. It's very difficult, again, to coordinate all of those parties. We make that very, very simple, very easy, because basically we coordinate all of that through our network. And again, maybe to make sure that the project itself is something that, again, we as a contractor are going to sign out the affidavit of guarantee to make sure that the project is cash flowing. So when I mentioned before about other forms of financing, there is a green bank that we have in Michigan. It's actually the only green bank in the entire state. I'm sorry, entire country. It's called Michigan Saves. So it's a quasi-public private entity that basically was set up so that it could maximize the programs that DTE and consumers and other utilities have in the state, where they basically get monies from those utilities and they use that money to then bring in third-party financiers, usually equipment financiers. And they do this on the residential and the commercial side. But on the commercial side, these are equipment financiers that would normally, charge, if you went to them directly, they would say, yeah, we can, lend you money to do a new HVAC system or a new lighting system, but it's going to be, 13% interest rate, and you have 3 years to pay it off. Excuse me. Through the Michigan Saves program, again, with a lot of money given to them by DT and consumers and other utilities, they now have elongated that term out to, in some cases, 7 years. And actually, also, the rebate dollars that are able to be contributed to the project, there's a back end that will potentially match up to that dollar amount. There's a cap to it, but up to that dollar amount to buy down that interest rate on that project. And so for a lot of projects that are under $150,000, the interest rate is 0. Yes, that interest rate is bought down by DTs and consumers to a 0% interest rate. So it's same as cash. So now for those smaller projects, sometimes Michigan Saves would be, again, an initial, a great option because, again, sometimes the time constraints of PACE, but also it allows for a 0% interest rate, and it's spread out over a shorter, or a longer period of time. Now, again, it's shorter than PACE. So you're talking about 5 or 7 year money versus 25. But again, sometimes that's a difference between a project being able to get done and not get done. So it is also not tied to the property. It is tied to the business. So it's a UCC filing, so it doesn't put any liens on the property. That's important because some building owners have already got a loan, and in getting a equipment loan or equipment lease would be violating any loan covenants. So this does not violate any of those loan covenants. It's structured again as equipment lease, which most banks will allow you to be able to do even with an existing loan of the building because it's not putting a lien on it. Also, it's very, very quick turnaround time. A lot of times, once we go in, we do the initial assessment and we were able to give, the information and look at what as we submit information to DT and consumers and know what the rebate amount is looking like. Once we submit the financing app, we're usually able to get a turnaround time in under a week. I put 2 weeks, but really most of the time it's under a week. So it's very, very quick turnaround time. And again, great for those situations where you might have, again, a tenant going in where you need to get the project started immediately. And you can refinance refinance Michigan Saves using PACE. So that's where you can kind of utilize both of these, not as competing, but almost really to your advantage to, get the project started quickly, but then refinance it with PACE once, as the project's kind of continuing. So we as a contractor, this is kind of the next steps of what we would do with a client that would be interested in. First off, we would pinpoint what energy efficiency measures you want to focus on for your facility, and then assess those energy savings. We do a survey of the facility, for lighting, building envelope, HVAC, controls, etc. And then put together a proposal to present, showing those savings and showing what the rebate and the potential financing options that would make sense for that particular project. We would also arrange the financing on your behalf, working with Bob for PACE, and also working with Michigan Saves for that type of financing to make sure that again, it's a very seamless, easy process. We would also submit and do all the rebate work on your behalf, so that way we can maximize the rebate dollars, but also you don't have to deal with the pre-walk and the inspection and everything that DT and consumers require in order to gain those rebate dollars. Also, we would manage the project from end to end. We would procure all the product and the labor, and manage all the install teams. So again, we are like that end-to-end solution to be able to help on the contractor side. Once you determine you want to go through with a PACE project, make sure that all of the work side of it and product side are just as easy as the initial front side was to decide to move forward. So really, for us to get us started, we look at needing at least a minimum of 6 months worth of utility bills, preferably 3 winter, 3 summer. We like to have a full year, but at least if we can get started with 6 months, that way we can kind of assess where the issues may be. So thank you so much. This is my contact information. I guess I'll open the floor up to questions.
Thanks, Jason. That was a great presentation. Thank you to all the presenters. I do see one question in here. Can we obtain PACE funding for an energy saving project even if we have an already existing mortgage, FNMA backed on our property? And this, I don't know if this is specific to you or any of the presenters, but that's one question in the chat.
That's the Todd answer.
Okay.
Yeah, Kendall, I just put a bit of a broad answer in. So it is important to note that in Michigan, if you have a pre-existing mortgage, that lender will have to consent to the PACE loan coming in. We've been very successful in working with senior lenders. There are a number of them who've consented to projects. I will say Fannie and Freddie are challenging at this point. I'm not sure that they will consent. We are working through a rather convoluted process to try and get the Michigan PACE program recognized and approved by HUD. Hopefully that will be forthcoming sometime soon, but it is a challenge a lot of the administrators around the nation have been working on, and so hopefully we'll crack that code soon. But just because you have a senior mortgage already on a property, it doesn't discount your ability to take the PACE loan out.
Thanks, Todd. I have a couple questions, but before I ask, I wanted to make sure there weren't any other questions from the audience. And at this point, feel free to raise your hand or take yourself off mute and ask your question. All right, well, one additional question I had was going back to one of your slides, Todd, I think the types of buildings that are eligible for PACE financing. I was curious, have any of you worked on a PACE project that involved a K through 12 school or a municipality or a state facility?
Yes, but not in Michigan. So in Michigan, governmental property is not allowed. We would be able to work with private schools, and we have looked at a couple of religious-based private schools. Jason had mentioned the Adat Shalom project. That was actually, they explored using PACE, and they went without it, but it does include school as well as the temple, and overall a great project. I was happy to see it get done even without us. If you get down into Ohio, you can certainly use PACE on municipal projects. The first 45 properties ever assessed with PACE in Ohio are either City of Toledo or Toledo-Lucas County Port Authority owned properties. So different world if you get into different states.
And I will say from the contractor side, what I've experienced, especially when it gets to nonprofits and house of worship, I will say Detroit Unity was a unique kind of scenario. A lot of times, nonprofits and house of worship will have a challenge with the tax lien now assessment, and so definitely a lot of walkthrough would need to be happening. So Bob Maller was instrumental with Detroit Unity in being able to kind of really help guide them and help them understand the ramifications of that, in terms of putting on now a tax assessment on a non-taxed organization, non-taxed building. So that's something that definitely they need to be, guided through. Not that it cannot be done, but it just has to be understood. And then obviously, especially when it comes to nonprofits and house of worship, there's a lot of, chiefs that have to basically be coordinated with. There's a lot more chiefs than there are Indians in that sense. So.
Thank you, Jason. There's another question in the chat from Bob. Can you elaborate on stormwater retention, detention, and types of upgrades and financing?
Yeah, we've found this to be financeable in Detroit because of the stormwater utility charge. In other areas of the state, we've not been able to qualify from a PACE standpoint. There's certainly other ways to finance it, and so two projects actually took advantage of PACE for stormwater. One is the Beltline Center. There's a couple of case studies on our website, which is a green roof and blue roof that was put in not only to reseal and insulate the building, but also to capture stormwater so it was not running off. The other project that took advantage of PACE for stormwater runoff was including a broader financing, broader package, was the Roberts Riverwalk Hotel. They utilized PACE to kind of redevelop how the parking lot was shaped and how some of the stormwater was running off there. So always happy, always looking for more of those projects here in Detroit.
Thank you. And we are past 1 o'clock, so I know folks need to go, but feel free if you want to stay on for a few more minutes. If there's some additional questions, or feel free to turn your video on, say hello. I see that there's a couple comments in the chat. Doesn't look like we have any other questions though. Bob, I may follow up with you on, I was curious about energy code. I had a couple of questions there, especially with some of the changes that are anticipated in Michigan's energy code.
Kendall, I would highlight the requirement to go above code to be financeable by PACE is only on new construction. If you have a pre-existing building and it's a retrofit, you don't need to put in something above code. You merely need to put in something that is actually better than what's in there. So you certainly can take a 1910 boiler and replace it with something that meets code now. You can't go below code. You can meet code in a retrofit situation. With new construction PACE, since there's no baseline, you're not replacing anything, we do require you to go above code in order to finance with PACE.
Okay, thank you. right.
Okay, well,
that was-
great.
Very good presentation from everyone, so thank you.
So once again, we will get the video recording out to everybody. And it'll also be on our YouTube channel too, along with all of our other meetings. So take care. Thank you for joining us and enjoy the nice weekend I think we have coming finally.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care, everybody.
Have a good weekend. Thank
Thank you.
you.
Bye.
Bye.